anymore. But
Well, we're live, but I mean, they're hooking up. But the crazy thing is that I was sitting around a couple of days ago. It must have been over the weekend. God, yeah, we're onto something here. Let's just see how it goes. But I was sitting on the couch a couple of days ago, maybe Saturday or Friday night, and I started having these flashbacks of these really important deja vus throughout my life that I've never forgotten. And the first one I had when I was 18 years old, and I think if people talk about a walk-in, I think it might have been a walk-in. But I was going, wow, I haven't had any deja vus in a long time. I wonder if they're ever going to come back. And then last night, we were watching a movie, and I don't know which one it was. We ended up watching The Gentleman, by Guy Ritchie.
Oh yeah.
So I like gangster movies, and
Uh-huh.
I like his style. But I think it was the movie before that, and I knew what was going to happen, and it went on for like 10 minutes, and I'm sitting there quiet, not saying anything, and it was a really really long deja vu. Um, it was really really weird, and now I'm getting another one, so I don't know what that means. David Manning, welcome back. How many people we got? Oh, we're doing good. We got 52 people and counting, so we won't play the intro.
Okay, cool,
But
cool. It's
yeah.
always lovely to see you. Always nice to be with your audience. So
Yeah, we have a good synergy. Yeah, I mean, all the shows I do, I feel pretty synergetic with everyone, even the ones that don't like me. But with certain people, you just like, yeah, we've got a connection. I don't know
yeah.
what it is. How do you explain that? I don't know. And let me just say something to everyone. Bruce, everybody knows Bruce. God, I can't remember his last name now. But he's on YouTube. He's always on here. He's always cracking jokes. We haven't seen him since the first of the year. So if anybody knows what's up with Bruce, let me know. I'm just curious because he's missing in action. So David, you guys got a bunch of stuff going on over there. Well, we got stuff going on all over the world.
Totally.
You guys are. I mean, and it's so what difficult to rely on what you get from obviously from the mainstream media, and really from social media. Even if you're in light worker circles, some of the information being put out there is not legit. It's
Yeah.
not vetted. So it's like, but I did pick up, and I don't know if this is true, although I've seen a couple of videos that were badass. I saw one in Liverpool where this was like 6 weeks ago, they were enforcing, and it looked like it was about midnight or 1 in the morning, and they were enforcing a quarantine. And there was a guy, I guess they have like apartment buildings, and there was a guy with a camera looking down on the main street, which was about maybe 5 lanes wide. It looked pretty big. It must have been a really main street. And there was one motorcycle cop, and he was like going in S's, like just making his presence felt. And all these people came out, and they started running on the streets and chased them off. And then more cops came, and and it was such a like, energetic stamp of sovereignty. I was like, whoa. But it looks like, and I could be wrong, but it looks. I know there's been a lot of lockdown measures, but it looks like the people are pushing back over there. Is that right?
To me, it feels like there's starting to be that wave of people really questioning what the fuck is going on here. It's like enough people now are recognizing things aren't adding up. They're not making anything like the sense that is required to keep something like this going. And people are exhausted and tired of the restrictions, and it's I mean, where I live now, I have a really easy, comfortable life on the coast. I get to do more or less what I want, and I'm out and about a lot. But I can really see that it's starting to bite, but because people have more time on their hands, they're all over social media, and they're really starting to question a lot of the statements the governments, not just this government, but all over the world, are coming out with
Yeah.
have got so many holes in them when you really start to explore this. You know, the numbers aren't adding up, the figures aren't adding up, the claims for vaccines aren't adding up. And people are aware that only the party line is being allowed in mainstream media. There is
Yeah.
anything that is questioning that now is being, you know, really quite brutally suppressed.
Now,
And that's
is it that way over in England, like with you know, like specific issues and propaganda or whatever that's, you know, exclusive to England itself?
I
Is it
think
like that?
we've never noticed it so much before, but now it's primarily focused on if anybody is questioning the mainstream or the government line on COVID and vaccines, then they are starting to be outlawed, and there is a real movement to shut them down. If people don't want to take the vaccination, there's starting to be the question of, well, do we ban them from,
Did
you
you?
know, from traveling, from public events, all of this sort of thing. And I think a lot of those questions are being promoted by, you
Yeah.
know, subtly promoted in the media to generate public opinion. And
Or
so people are recognizing actually this is an orchestrated campaign
yeah.
to shift people's
Yeah.
opinion and attention, and there's starting to be a pushback from that, I think, you know.
Well, you know, that's one of the surprising things. Actually, I wasn't surprised. I was actually, you know, how you have, well, forgive us, but if you have expectations, you know, and I don't know if it's expectations, but what you think is going to happen. Like when I had this show with David Icke the other day, and I was amazed because I followed him for years, like a lot of people, you know, not religiously, but you know,
Yeah, yeah,
once you dive in and have a crash course with him, it doesn't take long to, you know, pretty much get the picture. But one of the things, two of the things that I really admired was one, as adamant and convicted as he said, you know, knowledge, information, there is no negative or positive. It's just information. And to allow you to then take it in and then utilize it in whatever way or not to enhance your experience. Um, and then the other thing is, which you know, I picked up from his work for a long time and others, which is there has been two sides presenting themselves, one side presenting them, or one force presenting themselves as two sides. Now, after watching all of this with the Trump and the Biden and the fraudulent elections, and did Italy do this and Germany do that, and you know, you got to, you know what I mean? Like every time I see
yeah.
something in the mainstream media, I'm like, okay, why is that there? Why is it that I can take that as gospel that Angela Merkel's going to step down when anything else in the I can't? So there's all this propaganda. What I'm beginning to firmly believe is that there are various vying factions and always have been. You can say like the Vatican, the Dragon family, the mafia, you know, Cosa Nostra, military industrial complex, Jesuits. I mean, all these different factions that are vying for position, and is whatever force is behind Trump, Q, and all that just another faction? Now, the reason I say this is because there's no, I just don't, it's almost like a rudderless ship, right? And so I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens here in America over the next couple of days, because that inauguration is scheduled for day after tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now, if nothing happens and 4 or 5, 6 days go by, and that narrative of, hey, the storm's coming, hey, we've got this, white hats are arresting people, they've got clones and stand-ins, they've been arrested for a long time, some of them have been killed and executed. I mean, where's that all going to go? And then the other side of it, which is in, you know, in our case, this obvious potential continuation of those that have been powered, and I'm talking about since, say, first Bush,
Yeah.
you know, when Reagan was president, because he really was running the show, you know, Bush was. And so you got the Bushes and the Clintons, and we all know they were in bed together and all that, right? But so you have this other side that looks like they, you know, have some semblance of strength, that this is one that the people are going, hey, you know what? No more. Like what you were describing in England. People are looking at that narrative of the Bush, Obama, 9/11, all the way up to Biden, whatever, as, hey, you know what? It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make
It's
any
not. I
sense.
mean, there's so much information out there, and that's why there's such an attempt to control the information that is leaking out. But I think it's interesting. If nothing happens, if nothing dramatic happens on
Yeah.
or before the inauguration, there are going to be a lot of very, very disappointed people
Yeah.
and a lot of really angry people.
Yeah.
And that in itself might be the storm that people are looking for, the rage that will hit the surface, because a lot of people are deeply disaffected, deeply disenfranchised from any sense of self-autonomy. And this isn't in spiritual new age circles. This is just your regular people, on the ground, who are seeing their income, their livelihoods just disappearing, and the money being sucked ever upwards into those billionaire circles, and I think at that level, there could well be some significant change. If nothing happens, if there isn't some big dramatic outpouring. But from my perspective, I have always been told, and let me think now, before, I can't remember. So around maybe the 6th of January, I was meditating and just asking, so how is this going to play out? How is this going to play out? And all I was told, and as I asked the question, I got pulled out into the cosmos. So I was looking at a vast cosmic landscape, and I was told, it's nothing that you're expecting.
That's what I'm
And I
thinking.
thought,
Yeah.
and I thought, well, so that's no information at all. What does that mean? And again, I get nothing. And as I'm going to bed that night, my central channel, the central column, opens up, and I am flooded with the most extraordinary joy that opens up from inside.
Yeah.
It wasn't coming in from the outside, it just opened up from the inside. And I knew, as I was lying in bed, just bathing in this joy that was emanating from deep inside me, that this was the answer to my question. How is this going to play out? And it was like, oh, so always my questions of how is it going to play out there are silenced by an experience of unfolding inner dimensions. And I'm always pulled back to that. And over the years, and I'm quite a politically minded animal, and would or could have got quite involved with that at some level. But for years I've been told, no, let that go, because that's the world that's dying and it needs to die. You're here to pay attention and to help give birth to the new world. And that happens in the energetic realms. And so that's always my focus. But I do still like to pay a bit of attention to what's going out there, because
It's a good
apart from
movie.
anything, and it's
Better than
fascinating,
any
isn't it?
series on Netflix.
Totally, it's totally.
I just want to
fascinating,
validate what you said too. I want to validate what you said last night when Morgan and I lay down and did our thing. She channeled a little bit at the beginning, and that's basically what was said. What was said a little bit differently, but was said was, what's going to happen, or what you've all created is effing mind blowing. It's like, and again, the end result being what you've been experiencing. The other thing that this kind of triggers for me is Franco de Nicola came on. I want to say about 10 days before the actual election, and he, his intel has been very consistent. It's usually just a few weeks out ahead of you. Nothing, too concrete in terms of like, boxed in. But so he said, at the time that he had checked in, like you did, he was told, you guys haven't decided yet. It might go red, it might go blue. Either way, it's going to all deconstruct within 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
If you go red, it's going to be a little bit easier, but it's going to take longer, because there's already disclosure in the mechanics of that, that stream. If it goes blue, it's going to be a lot bumpier, and radical at times, but it's going to move faster because the veils will come tumbling down because it's all a house of cards.
Yeah.
So, moral of the story, we end up at the same place and feel like what you felt on the 6th when you checked in.
And it always, I've totally forgotten what I was going to say. That, yeah, that's totally gone. I don't know what I was going to say.
You were just talking about how what you had felt, the joy, the bliss that came from in here. And I guess the reason I had interjected was because you were saying how that you have no idea. What were you saying? Not that you have no idea, but it's like far beyond our wildest dreams what the product's going to be.
Yeah, and I think we have known for forever since we started on this journey that a lot of these systems have to collapse. They can't. They're not going to transform themselves. They've got to collapse completely. And as more and more people, and I think as usual, the solstice was a big hyped event, and it was, from my perspective, a beautifully powerful event. I experienced a huge activation and expansion at the time, which was 2 minutes past 10 in the morning here, and I was doing a teleconference for a really large number of people because it was a free teleconference. So there were hundreds of people there, and we were in silence at that time. But there was this huge expansion, a heart expansion that was for me a diamond-like expansion of the heart, and this anchored into the earth. The same codes were coming in from the sun, and there was this extraordinary alignment, and that. Since that point, there's been a radical shift in my energy and my field. A lot of people don't clock that, so they're looking for the change out there.
Yeah.
But it has to happen, on the inner realms first before it creates the collapse that we're all looking for. But I think that solstice. Well, the impact of that unfolds deep in our collective psyche over the coming months now. So there'll be many, many more people having their awakenings, for whatever purpose or whatever seems to trigger them into an awakening. There's been this huge energetic impetus on the solstice, but every day there is more and more energy flooding the planet. So it's
Yeah, and I think too, sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit. I'm an old history buff, so I used to read a whole lot, like from 20 to 40, not just history books, but all of it was nonfiction. And I don't think we give ourselves enough credit because if you look back at history, anytime, pretty much, unless it was Gandhi, and even then there was some bloodshed. But pretty much when there is a turning over the apple cart of the existing authoritarian regime, whatever it may be, democracy or whatever it is, it's usually pretty radical.
Yeah.
I mean, like, people get fed up and they're like, F this, I'm done. And there's arms and legs piled up in the town square back in the old days. But when I say, and I know there's been a lot of stuff that's been sensationalized and propagandized, it's really hard to tell, was there a riot? I mean, you watch the thing at the Capitol Hill, you watch that, and I've been in America 59 years. You can't just walk into a Capitol building. I mean, come on. So there's a lot of inconsistencies, and it doesn't mean somebody's right and somebody's wrong. It just means we're being played.
Yeah.
And totally. I don't think any of these vying factions are innocent. I think they're all they have to be to play the game. But what I'm trying to say is, even though there's been some narrative of, oh my God, they're going to attack all 50 capitals or whatever the case is, I don't see that radicalness. And maybe it's there, but I see a lot more people, quote unquote, holding the light.
Yeah.
Like spending more of their focus and attention, time, nurturing, maintenance on that part of themselves, which is going to reflect into the collective. So that's all I was getting at. I just don't think you're going to see these, and I could be wrong. Yeah, could be wrong. Like
if you think of, for most of us are experiencing that there is a huge amount more love present in the planetary field,
true.
you know, and you only have to get still and quiet for a few moments to really notice that, you know, or go and sit in nature for 10 minutes and you feel that, you know, it's totally present. So everybody is impacted, everybody is immersed in that sea of the densification of love, if you like. That's a clumsy phrase, but that's how it seems to me, that energy is becoming thicker and thicker in the collective field. There's more love present, and everybody wants more of that. Everybody appreciates that more. And the people that are out for violence, I think, are in the tiny minority. You know, most people just want a decent life. Most people want to be able to trust their government, that the government has their best interest at heart, you know. And there aren't many governments on the planet that I think we could say that about, you know. Maybe none, I don't know.
Probably
But
not. Maybe Iceland. Maybe Iceland.
Yeah, maybe
That's probably as close as you can get. I mean, they're the only ones that arrested all the bankers. You know,
I think,
back in LA, they're the only ones that have brought true equality to the genders.
Yeah.
But then again, I've never been to Iceland. I don't know what it's like. They might have gold-plated streets and, you know, spring
Apparently,
water.
it's a very expensive country to visit. You know,
Oh,
it's very expensive, but very beautiful. And they still honor and recognize, in a lot of cases, that their relationship with the nature spirits there, which is very rare and very beautiful, I think, you know.
One of the things that happened last night too that serves to what you were saying, you know, in saying certain things, they sound cliche-ish, but there's another thing that I think I've noticed in my own experience and with what I've observed doing the show with people, talking to people, is that the words that they're getting in have more meaning. So like last night, one of the phrases that came out of her was, if it's anything that's not founded on love is not going to last.
Mm.
You know, be it an ideology, a government, a person, or whatever. It's just not. I think, you know, for me, when I heard like what I heard last night, what I've heard, like what you were saying earlier, and even other people the last few weeks, what I'm getting is, you know, and of course we're all guessing, but it's not going to be the sun blinking inside us. It's not going to be a solar flash. It's not going to be this, you know, this in the moment, everyone gets it event. I think it's, for me, in my own experience, it feels like that the reality that there is something greater than me is becoming more and more pronounced every day. So in terms of like a statement like, if it's not based on love, it's not going to last. There's a stronger meaning and depth to that phrase. You know, we could use the term God or universe or whatever you want to use, but there's something about this power that I'm feeling that A, you don't have to worry about it. B, let go or be dragged, flow into it. And C, I'm in awe because it's like it's coming home, you know, it's coming home and straighten everything out, you know. That's coming home.
And I think our consciousness as a collective is shifting. So we've lived separation for a long time. And yet we've always been herd animals, in a sense. You know, there is one body of humanity. And yet we have totally separated out from that idea of one body of humanity. And yet we are moved as a collective. So I work with collective energies a lot, and often I will see these big patterns of energy moving deep in the collective field, and it takes months. I'm seeing them, and then it takes a long time, and then they hit the surface and start to be, you know, out on the surface. I think more and more we're becoming aware of our collective nature, of our herd nature, so that we know now that what we do in this country impacts other countries. We know we can't get away with polluting the planet because everybody is affected. all of those things are really, really landing now. And the idea of businesses, big worldwide corporations making vast profits at the expense of the planet are becoming just ridiculous. Most people know that that isn't sustainable. And that is love in action. It's that revolution of the idea that profit comes before everything else, to actually, we have to live in an economy that is sustainable and puts the ecology and people first before profits. And I think that will be a revolution that starts to really happen. This idea now that the billionaire class has made vast amounts of money over the past year, during this pandemic, when all of that money has just been siphoned upwards from your regular guy on the street, and many people are really feeling that impact of poverty, biting at the door, when there's this echelon up here somewhere that have no live in very, very gilded cages, and it's becoming totally transparent, totally unsustainable. And this, I was doing no, it wasn't a teleconference. I was doing a group meditation on, was that last night? And as I was sitting there watching the field, I was lost or locked into what looked like a mechanistic worldview, and they were literally, it was like something out of the Matrix, watching these machines running the world. And I was thinking, am I glimpsing a possible timeline or a future? And I just watched this for a couple of minutes, and then I became aware that layer was peeling away. And as I watched that, I understood that we've been in a mechanistic worldview since the Industrial Revolution, 250 years, that has worked to lock us into the intellect and to separate us from nature, in a sense. And I think that is really starting to peel away as we come back to these deep connections with the planet and with each other, that we recognize that is totally vital to our well-being, because we've taken the other possibility, this mechanistic worldview, to its utmost. Now I think there'll be a branch that goes on to explore that in terms of transhumanism, the integration of machines and humans, and that always seems like a completely sort of soulless timeline that gets explored. But I think many more people are recognizing the supremacy and the importance now of holistic thinking, and that the soul or God really has a place to play in everything, from our personal relationships to our business world. Everything will come back to having that as a central focus.
Yeah. Sometimes I sit down and think about, like, okay, so like the hierarchical aspect of the earth. I think anyone that's traveled in dimension and had experiences on the other side, so to speak, there's one thing, at least from my experience and people I've talked to, which is everybody understands in these realms that we're all equal. I'm talking about when there's not any distortion or whatever, but at the same time there's some type of, it's not really a hierarchy, it's more of like a maturation. There's certain levels, right, of dimensions and consciousness and beings or whatever. So if I look at the earth, well, how does that work? And then I listen to what Morgan channeled and what you tapped into, and a couple other people that are high frequency in the last week or two that have been on the show, that what's going to happen, right? That's how her channel started last night. As soon as we lay down, she's like, what is going to happen? What is going to happen? And it wasn't her. It was her higher aspect. I could tell by the voice, and I could also, it just shocked me because it happened so quickly. And then it went into, what's going to happen is, and these are my words, but is joy. It is bliss. And it's far beyond anything you could even imagine. It is an incredible creation, what you guys have done. You just can't see it yet. and obviously you can't see what's going to occur, right? But if I look at that and what you tapped into and the others that I talked about, one of the things that goes with it is that it's not so much, it is, but because it's related, it's not so much what's going to occur in the collective experience. It's the magnificence is the story that will unfold in terms of what creates it, which is obviously, from ourselves, and obviously heart based. That, in other words, to me, when I look at that, when I read that energy, it's telling me that people are going to do something on an individual level so atypical, so different, so new, so forgotten, that it's going to blow this thing up. Like they're going to go somewhere they never even thought they'd go. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and that's pretty mind blowing to me. If you
I
had,
think because we're moving into this creative phase now, because we've been clearing and clearing and clearing and clearing for a long, long time, just clearing the debris of many, many lifetimes of contraction and suppression, and we've got down to some of the fundamentals now. And we're starting, I think, from my perspective, the solstice and that conjunction was very much like an ignition of creative potentials in the human race, if you like. And if we are creating from that perspective of deep connection with the earth and deep connection with the cosmos, open-heartedness, then I think the inspiration, the inventions, the possibilities that unfold from that place are mind-boggling. Because always we've had little glimpses where human beings have opened to extraordinary inspiration and produced amazing works of art and beautiful inventions that have changed the lives of millions of people. And you think all of that has been within the fields of contraction that we've been working with. What might happen when we're out of those fields and working with much, much more of our DNA or much, much more of our energetic field, lined up and in alignment and tuned up to these higher frequencies? I think it's like you say, we can't really envision it because we've been so disconnected from that for thousands of years as a collective, that we have no real understanding yet of our potential as a species.
I mean, there's so much stuff that happens when I talk to you. It's like all these multiple streams open up or continue. They're kind of like suspended, and they start flowing again. But like you mentioned the DNA thing, uh, you know, if I look at everything that's on the table, and I said, okay, to myself, what? And this is kind of what my life is, I guess, but not with the consistency, um, or the volume that it will be, can and will be.
Mm.
And that is, what are the priorities? Be with who you love, do what you love. But in terms of like self love, service to self, as it is when it is selfless and equal to service to brother and sister, service to the collective. What can I do? What can I do above all else? What can I do besides looking at that damn news feed to see what happened next in the movie, or whatever, all these other distractions? Daily, nightly, uh, you know, bringing my DNA, talking to my DNA, healing my DNA, these things that are physical slash non-physical integrations of our essence, where we can actually program and reprogram and deprogram the old stuff. I mean, where we can actually raise our frequency, and we don't need anyone to do it. We might need someone to teach us how to do certain things, but the energy today is much different, as you know, than it was 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. It's very much a collaborative energy. If a soul says, I have the desire, to expand, to heal, to align, to whatever you want to call it, the universal energy is going to bring in the information, the data, the opportunities, and the people for you to do that. And this is a good time. I remind myself last night to be careful what you ask for, because I was going through about 10 to 2 weeks ago, maybe up till about 10 days ago, these closer and closer encounters with these tall blue light beings. And at the end of this run, they started to show me more physicality, right?
Hmm.
And they were saying, "Hey, you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Remove your fears, and we're going to have." And they went into detail. Now I was fine with that, and I thought, okay, well, I'm going to keep working on this every night. And then I talked to Sandra Walter after the David Icke show, and I told her about it. She goes, "Oh my God, are you serious? The same thing's been happening to me." Well, she was the third person that said basically the same thing that I had been experiencing. At that point, I laid down the next night and I said, "Do I really want to do this? Do I need to do this? Can I get the information without having that type of?" So the whole thing came full circle, that what I'm going to experience, whether it's in the ethers or not, it's up to me. So to think about what you want, to include, you know, uh, your own personal experience in your bubble, and then everything outside of that, which really comes from that anyway. But yeah, I just think that the formula, well, let's just put it this way: there's an expanded formula of the experiential, which includes the non-physical part of us, as they come together.
Yeah.
It's just it's not like, if say you have an equation that goes x plus y divided by z. Now it's one of those equations that you see like in trig, and it's like x minus y over z times 2 3 plus 12 to the 99th power. You know what I mean? It's like got all these other components in it, and each one of them have multiple portals of access and creation.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally. It's a very exciting time. Really amazing. I was the other day. I had some shoulder problems, and I was very painful in my shoulder, and I was just working with it. And I just lay on the sofa, and I was dropping into that place, and it was really locked into the back of my heart. And I dropped through some childhood layers, and very quickly I realized I was in a layer or an area, a dimension that I had not been in before.
When
And
did this
this
happen?
was. Um,
Was it like in the
lose
last
track.
2 weeks?
It was in the last few days. It was
Okay.
perhaps Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
Um, no, hang on. It's Monday today, isn't it? So it was in the middle of last week, perhaps.
Okay.
And as I dropped into this layer, I thought, "Oh my God, this is the blueprint layer. Now we're here. We're here as a collective at this blueprint layer, and we can really start to make fundamental changes." And I've seen for years that our system, our light body, if you like, is an extraordinary spacecraft energy
Yeah.
field, if you like. And it's been so layered over with thousands and thousands and thousands of years of conditioning that we've lost touch with the fine stranding and the really beautiful integrity of this field of light that we are. It's as if we've recently, as we clear more and more of that, it's as if we've just been handed the operating system for
Yeah.
this spacecraft that we are, and we're just learning how to get to grips with the controls. But what it is capable of, we have no idea of yet.
Wow.
And I think that's truly, truly beautiful, huh?
This is trippy. Okay. This is trippy. Yeah. See, and Morgan just did it right here. Okay. And Janie just said "me too" last night. Morgan just said "we saw it last night." Okay. So there's multiple things there's like 3 or 4 things there. One thing, and that's why I asked you, when did this happen? So it was last week, probably about 7 days ago. That same thing happened to me when we connected. Now we weren't talking, and I broke through. I believe eyes open, but it was dimension. There was no physicality,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of presence of beings, and I was aware of Morgan. but again, this is not in the physical, although my eyes are open, so I'm fully conscious, but I broke through to a place I'd never been. Just exactly the words that you said, to a place I had never been before. And I even looked around and said, I've never been here. And then there was, feedback coming in. Janie just said the same thing. Morgan just said the same thing. But there was another thing that you said, and I can't remember what it was now. We can come back to it. But so I think it was something along the lines of getting down to
the blueprint level.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, that's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. Like,
and from
where
that
do you
perspective,
want to go from here? Like, where do you want to go from here?
Yeah.
What do you want to do now? How do you want to do this? How do you want to create this?
Yeah. And I think we're just really starting to understand about, and I know Morgan has written a lot about this, certainly in the past few months, but about, connecting with and communicating with and organizing your DNA in a way that optimizes its functioning, rather than just accepting the programming that is handed down through our ancestral patterns and all the rest of it. And if you take that story of us as genetically modified beings, then we have the capacity to modify our own genetics. It just takes a bit of focus, a bit of willingness, and the willingness to get in there, into the workings of our system, and play around with it, and trust that, I can do this. I have every right to do this. I think we've be locked out of that idea of I have the right to do this, simply because there was this sense of being owned by other beings, because we were thousands of years ago created as a slave race. And I experienced that as a long time ago, that was an aspect of our timeline that was still playing out. Now we've cleared the slave genetics, I think, that were operational, and we get to truly explore freedom and what that might mean for us.
Yeah.
Did you want to do some energy work?
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up, but let me go back to that last part, because this whole thing with like what you were saying is, like, at the top of the show, you were saying when you tapped in, you went above the earth, you could see down there, and how it was unfolded and all that. But that what's going to happen, what Morgan got, what I got, what a lot of other people talk, what it's going to be is far beyond anything we could comprehend.
Yeah.
And it's all good, And one of the things that I've sensed for myself since October, it's ramped up, has been how that experience has been kind of confined to a certain border, let's just say, a certain horizon in my when I consider how's this going to go down.
Yeah.
What I've been getting is that it's going to include things that are not included now. So it's going to include star family, or maybe elementals, or visuals beyond the visible light spectrum.
Yeah.
Or other sensitivities beyond what the limits have been of our five senses. Like it's not like the same. It's not linear. What I'm getting, it's like every time you take a step, there's 12 prisms just open up.
Yeah.
And then when you take the next step to see how many more prisms are going to open up, the prism channel that you already opened up, as you step, say, out of it, turns into 144 from 12. And then, you know what I mean? So it's like this multiplicity to it. And that's how I felt. And it's like the information that I've been getting about that, about visitation, materialization, manifestation, and everything, has basically been how do you say this? The way this is done is through, I guess in human terms, belief systems. So when we're looking at ourselves today, no matter how elevated we are, we have a certain package of belief systems. we remove a belief system and we normally replace it with another one that's got more openness and more expanse to it. And so it's really accepting our power and accepting the universe as it is limitless. And as we do that, we allow these things to come in. The only reason they don't come in is, we were told, that they didn't exist. We were told that imagining that you can heal your DNA is a fantasy.
Yeah.
All these things that were considered outside the bounds of reality are the reality. And
And the interesting thing is, when we think something is outside of the bounds of reality, our belief systems create a structure in our energy field. It's a physical, well, it's a structure of energy, but I experience and see those things as literal architecture in the energy field.
Yeah.
So we get locked into a prison of our own making, literally, that is in the mental level of the energy field, the third level of the energy field. And to expand into the non-physical realms, you have to break through the prison you've created to access these higher dimensions. So it is literally moving beyond what we've known to be true and allowing what we perhaps hope to be or have fantasized to be true, just allowing it to be present because it's already there. And those beings. When I did a teleconference after the solstice, 2 weeks after the solstice, I was completely blown away because the whole of the landscape had changed totally, and there was so much more presence, so much with the field that work with us in these teleconferences. I was completely blown away. So I think we are we are going to be we are much more sensitive, and that capacity is opening up very rapidly for a lot of people. But this interdimensional communication and communion is going to become much more real for a lot of people, and that will involve seeing and connecting with and meeting these beings as almost physical. I think it won't, and that's always happened for some,
and beyond.
but it'll be a much more.
Evidently, from what I was told, and Sandra Walter was told, and other people that.
And that was a great. I loved that Sandra Walter interview. I hadn't seen her before, but she was a truly beautiful soul, isn't she?
Incredible. Yeah,
she really is.
Been doing her thing since like Morgan, since the late '90s. But she's a pretty really cool lady. We've met her a couple times, and very down to earth. That's the thing about her. She's very down to earth, and she's not doesn't seem to get. She just stays with her nose to the grindstone, But anyway, that was a good day. That was a powerful day. So we talked about this before the show. I was remarking to David how I had to cancel last time we were on. I've had like 3 days where I've had to cancel in the last 3 months, which isn't normally something that happens to me, but it has it has been pretty intense. And he was talking about how, doing a lot of shows, I'm exposed to a lot of different energies. Other people have pointed that out before, and I was just telling them that I was aware of that. And then he had mentioned, would you, anytime that you would like to, we could do like an energy session. And a lot of people have asked me to do that, and I've done some, and I guess I kind of do my own thing, and then with Morgan too. But I do think it's important to put it out there and then do it. And I can be the client right now, so people can, first and foremost, gain something from it, maybe see something they haven't seen before, and then also to see what David does, because David has a very strong level of credibility in this community, which is not easy to do, in my opinion. And I think that it'd be well worth the participation for everybody to stick around while we do this. We got 155 people in the house, and thank you all for being here. But David, I'm gonna let you take it over and explain anything I left out, including the exchange that occurs. Even if I'm the client, there's still They're still a connection.
Yeah, and what we'll do is set this up so that anybody that wants to receive the energy work, so it'll happen in your body, but it'll be available to everybody if they want. And if they don't want, just state a clear no to your energy field, and that won't happen. But because we each have to take responsibility for our own system. But if you want, then invite your greater self to be part of the equation. It always is, but it's always polite to invite, and away we go. And what I do, Todd, is simply I sort of shift focus. It's a tiny little shift into what I think of as my working mode, and I connect with your system, with your field, and just ask your system energetically what it wants here, what it most wants. And so I invite you to just spend a few moments following the breath and just allowing the breath to take you inwards. And just give complete permission to your body, to your cell tissue, to your physical structure and your energy field to let go of anything and everything that's ready to let go. And also to open up and integrate whatever is ready to land. I make sounds while I'm working. I didn't want to make sounds, but it was explained to me that that was going to be useful. I would. And so I'm watching your spine primarily. There's a lot of energy starting to come in through the spine. And so I'm just holding the spine right the way down through the base and into the perineum and the base of the spine. And I'm just tracking that as energy really starts to open up. And it's like the vertebrae and the nerve connections through the spinal cord and out from the through the vertebrae are just starting to open up and shift a bit more as more energy really starts to flow in. We just need to support the crown a little bit while this unfolds. Beautiful. And I think often, when we're in the public eye and you're one of those people, a lot of people are focused on you as a somebody that means something to them. And that means that a lot of energy gets projected in your direction. And so you have a field that can cope with that, if that makes sense, yeah? And so we just support the field in clearing some of the projections, because sometimes that can get a bit sticky, a bit overwhelming in a sense, and that's great. There we go. And energy starting to open up through the upper chest now, and the big energy points in both shoulders just starting to clear. Some old patterns of wounding opening up there. Pow, wow, wow, wow. Pow, wow, wow, wow. And then coming deeper into the heart field. Okay, there we go. Through the back of the heart, there's starting to be a lovely, lovely expansion through there now. How are you doing, Todd? How's this feeling for you?
I'm good. I'm with you. Yeah, I can feel it.
And as I'm holding the heart, and I don't do anything, I simply watch the field and watch the energy interact. And the system knows what it wants, and it's pulling energy down into the, the right hip at the moment, the right hip and the right side of the pelvis. That's a bit crunchy in that part. So we're just holding the right hip joint as that just starts to open up there. And the whole field just starts to soften and expand. That's beautiful. And there in the lower gut, there's a bit of a pool of debris, if you like, a bit of old toxicity, like a bit of sludge that is wanting to clear. So I'm just giving permission for that to exit and just unwind. How are we doing for time, Todd? Do you have another session booked very soon?
Not for 32 minutes. We're good.
Okay.
I just got to say too that this thing with the right hip and the right pelvic, you're pretty good, man. That hit me last night. So
Cool. And it's
I want to give you that validation, the prompts.
great.
You can't make that up.
Thank you. And all I do is watch where the energy moves. I mean, I wouldn't have a clue how to do this stuff, but I just watch the energy. And there, now the energy is starting to open up into the right leg and start to open up some of those meridians and clear the lines of energy right the way down into the foot. That's beautiful. Some old patterns through the back of, just above the back of the heart, starting to, between the back of the heart and the back of the throat, just starting to unwind. The sounds I make are not sounds I've learnt or I don't think about them, they just seem to happen. There was a Native American shaman came into my field about 25 years ago and said, whatever you've learnt up until now, just put it to one side, because how you're going to be working bears no relationship with what you've learnt. And then I was nervous about that, and then he explained that he was me in another lifetime, and that was that. Okay, so now the whole field balances, starting to be an expansion right the way through the whole of the pelvic field, and it's as if my focus shifts around behind you, and I'm just watching as a layer comes out right the way around the back and around the spine into the left side of the pelvis. So it's as if I'm lifting out a shield of energy here that has been present for a while. And when I say a while, I'm talking about thousands of years. Just power. Okay, now we're focusing into the left side of the pelvis, the left hip joint, just working to loosen through there and expand that, and then the pelvic floor just starts to relax, dropping into the coccyx, down the tailbone there. Beautiful. And then the whole of that lower part of the field just opens to receive from the earth a bit more fully, a bit more freely. So we're just watching that, and that starts to activate right the way up into the throat, because there's more energy rising through the system. So I'm just holding the throat as that starts to release and expand. Beautiful. And as that's opening, then right the way around the shoulders, a lovely relaxation through there. Beautiful. God, yeah. I'm just holding this point deep in the throat as that starts to unwind, and as that lets go, then there's a broadening of energy out through both shoulders and rising of energy into the center of the brain, through the optic nerves now starting to clear, and yeah, beautiful. So the whole of the back of the head just starts to unwind. How you doing, Todd? You okay?
Yeah, I'm great.
Lovely. Some of your team moving in to help release some more layers through the shoulders, just reaching in, opening that out. Okay, just through the left shoulder now, there's a little bit of a sticking point there, just working through that. And as that opens, then I'm just watching as the whole of the crown unfolds itself much, much more fully. Great, another field of energy just connecting in right the way down through the crown into, all the way through the body into the pelvis. And there, so there the pelvic, well, the whole of the field, but the pelvis is connected, or something has connected into the pelvis that has been waiting for a little while. Can you sense that? Can you feel that, Todd?
I feel it in a different part of the body, but it's connected to it. So up here, but it's connected to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just. What usually happens is that the system clears, and then the dimensions of energy that have been waiting to connect in just sort of line up and start to anchor in or reveal their presence, as it were. And often there's a walking out of past life energies, but you don't seem to have to. Well, they're not showing themselves to me at the moment in your field. Okay, and now there's a movement right the way through the chest, a lovely shimmering energy just starting to, and we're doing some work deeper into the lungs to open those out. Beautiful. I'm always fascinated by what each body wants to do, each system, and again, I don't direct any of the energy flow. The system knows exactly what it wants, exactly what it needs, and I just watch and hold space. And okay, so we've got a little bit more tightness through the right lung, so I'm just holding that. And we're back into the lower part of the spine, so I'm holding the lung and the lower spine at the same time, just. Beautiful. Okay, and as now there's sort of an unveiling happening, like a veil just releasing right the way through the system. Beautiful. Just holding the soul star to allow that a little time to reconfigure itself, and as soon as I hold that, then the earth star underneath our feet starts to call for a bit of attention too. So we're holding both of those points now, the earth star, the soul star. Beautiful magenta energy starting to circulate. And as I'm holding these points, I really get a sense of the expanded nature of your field. So I start to move out beyond earth fields into some of the cosmic fields. So we're just, the scope of the work then gets bigger. And this, we're holding these points still, the earth star and soul star, just expanding out. Beautiful. Wants to include more, so we're just I'm way out into the solar system now. Just holding these very expanded fields of consciousness, fields of light, as they integrate. That's beautiful. And then all of a sudden we start to come back into those points, the soul star, earth star, and the strong current running between them right the way through the central column and the spine. Now that central column of energy is nicely expanded now and beautifully full. Okay, so I'm just holding your field whilst it balances and integrates, but it's actually balanced very beautifully. And okay, there we go, Todd. We're done for that little piece of energy work.
So that's one of the things that you do, right? That's one of the things that you do.
I work one-to-one with people, and then we do that in large group fields as well. So the teleconferences I do are pieces of collective energy work that I don't instigate, that are that are invitations, if you like.
Yeah, like an observer, facilitator.
Yeah,
that's the way you. But because I've talked to Morgan about this before too. Because so the practitioner opens their field, the client opens their field, and they basically witness. They bear witness, hold space, facilitate, guide.
It's an extraordinary process because it's one of active participation, but also, so it's a really lovely balance between the inactive, I'm not doing a huge amount, but I'm very active in the witnessing and a surrendered, so I don't think about what I'm doing. My hands are moving all the time, there are sounds, and I'm not consciously thinking about those. So it's like, it's a very beautiful dynamic, one that is truly humbling to participate in, because I get to see the most extraordinary things and stuff that I wouldn't ever dream up myself, So it's very, very beautiful.
Yeah, I've been playing this. I do a Soulogy New Earth remix, and so it's excerpts of light language and poetry and music, but also commentary, like people do spirit walks or excerpt from a show. Anyway, there's one that I've been playing that Judith Kuzel from South Africa does. A lot of people know her.
I know her, yeah.
And she talks about, in this excerpt, she says that she's always amazed that when she does soul readings, and I don't remember the exact words, but like the uniqueness and the power and the illumination of each soul. Like she sees kind of like what you see, what you're seeing. You see the perfection and the, all of that.
And the vastness. We've identified ourselves as these wounded, insignificant beings with no self-worth and struggling to get by, and at these other levels and in these other dimensions we are utterly magnificent already, and it's and those are truly what are wanting to integrate and be present now in us and through us and as us, and so and that's part of my work then, and part of all of our work is to make space for that, I think.
That's interesting, because that's the word she used right when you said it. It came back, vastness. She said, I'm so impressed by the vastness of each soul. So how do people get in touch with you if they want to look at your
my website is www.davidmanningenergywork.com. You can go there, sign up for my newsletter. I have a Facebook page, which is David Manning Energy, and a YouTube channel as well. And I would love to have you sign up for a newsletter, and then I post newsletters and about all of the stuff that I'm doing. So I usually do a teleconference a week. And the one-to-one work as well. So
far out, man. far out. We'll see
Always
what
a
happens.
joy.
Next
Always
time.
a joy to meet you,
Yeah.
Todd.
Yeah. And actually, I think it started earlier this morning. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what's happening in a few weeks when we meet up again.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it will. I mean, because this week is, well, there's a lot focused on this week, isn't there? And I love what Sandra Walters thought about this revelation wave. I thought, oh,
Yeah.
that's a great term, because the revelation, it's us that is being revealed. You know,
Yeah.
more and more of the dimensions that we are now being revealed to us. And when enough people are aware of enough of their multidimensionality, then the ridiculous rules and regulations that seem to be, becoming more and more prevalent now, they make no sense. They don't hold any ground or any space.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be like, let's just say as an example, metaphorically or not, that somebody steps into this vast knowing or more vast knowing of what they truly are. And say one of those attributes is the ability to fly. And like you walk outside and the thought police say, hey, you can't fly. And you just look at them like, what are you talking about? I'm
Yeah,
flying, you know?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It is like that.
yeah. Okay, cool, man. We'll see you in a few weeks, I'm sure. I look forward
Okay,
to, 6 or 8 collaborations this year. And and just keep
lovely, lovely.
putting your meditations in the group. When I see them, I put them in the group. And I've had several people, message me and remark about their experience in it. So, and you said you had
Oh,
100 plus people on there Sunday. So I
yeah,
appreciate what you're
yeah.
doing. Thank you for your service to humanity. And thank you for always showing up, brother.
Hey, thank you to you and Morgan. Lots of love to you both. Take
All right,
care,
brother.
and thank you